Hey guys, welcome back to Nerdium, your weekly escape from reality and responsibilities. I'm your host Matt, and to my left, my co-host, the Groot to my Rocket Raccoon, except with a more extensive vocabulary and much more to say, Cary. In this week's episode, Cary and I discuss our favorite DC story arcs. Comics are one of the driving factors behind a large part of popular culture right now, and it's interesting to see where we get some of the inspiration for movies and TV from. So, Cary, when you're ready, put on your protective gloves, and let's hit the books. Alright, so this week Cary and I are going to be talking about our favorite DC series and story arcs. Ones that kind of jumped out at us, got us hooked, and keep us coming back for more.
Reaffirmed our love for DC over Marvel.
Yeah, and there's just so many TV series and movies coming out lately, and it's nice to see sometimes when they pull from our beloved series or story arcs.
Do you like that? I'm not sure I'm always all about that.
They rarely do it the justice it deserves, but it's nice to kind of see sometimes the tip of the hat.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I know sometimes I've seen it, I've just kind of rolled my eyes because it seems almost counterintuitive, depending on how hard they lean on it.
Yeah.
Right, depending on how hard you're really going to lean on that part. But, yeah, okay, I can see the fun in it.
Yeah, and, like, it's usually the Marvel movies that tend to do more of the leaning on the story arcs that are already established in the comics.
Mm-hmm.
I find DC movies right now, they seem to be having a hard time keeping with one coherent story. So
seem to be having a hard time keeping with one coherent director.
Yeah, there's that too. Like, before you hear the movie's getting announced, then you hear it's going to start filming, then you hear the director left, another director came, changed the director again.
Yeah, non-stop reshoots.
Yeah, reshoots. And then you end up with these movies that have maybe 5 different plots that are kind of mishmashed together to get the Suicide Squad. The Justice League movie was a little bit more of a coherent kind of linear plot, but at the same time I found it kind of disjointed at times.
It did seem to jump a little bit all over the place. I mean, maybe that has something to do with it. Weren't they planning on making it a two-parter, and then they had to amalgamate it to, or was that, am I thinking of the Infinity War there?
Yeah, that's Infinity War.
Yeah. But watching the Justice League, when I finally had a chance to go see it, it did seem they had one story arc they had in mind, and then they jumped all over the place. Mm-hmm. And to me, I don't know, I was kind of waiting for a big payoff, and I don't think I got my payoff.
Yeah, but I think one of the movies that are going to be coming down the pipeline for DC is going to be the Flash movie. They're starting to say that it's going to be really drawing from Flashpoint.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that because I really enjoyed the Flashpoint series.
Me too. It's still just a rumor. It's kind of unconfirmed right yet. They did talk about how there was going to be the Flash Cyborg kind of buddy movie.
Yeah.
But then it seems more and more like fans have been really kind of pushing them towards the Flashpoint paradox, which would be kind of interesting to watch.
Solid series. The animated version of Flashpoint was good, but it could only be as dark as they would allow it to be for the DC animated features. Those
still tend to be pretty dark, though. Like
they were. I found they pulled a few more punches than not. Still, yeah. Still solid. I still, if you have the option to sit down and watch it, it's great. Like, it's a good compression of what the Flashpoint paradox was.
Mm-hmm.
But still, the comic books were way better than the movie.
Yeah, and that is another area that DC I think actually does quite well over Marvel is their animated movies. Like,
for sure.
Like, they do some really good work. Like, there's the Under the Red Hood.
Yeah, Under the Red Hood was good.
It's quite enjoyable. And then there was the Killing Joke, which was kind of okay. It wasn't.
It got weird for me. Watching the Killing Joke, it got really weird for me when they had the whole Batgirl thing going on with Batman.
Yeah.
That kind of perturbed me just a hair. Didn't care for that. Yeah. The Dark Knight Returns animated was actually really, really stellar. The two-parter there. The animation was great. The coloring was great. It was almost washed out like that 1980s color.
Yeah.
And really did the comic justice.
Yeah. And then you get like Throne of Atlantis. There's a few other ones. Like, they're more mature than what you get for the animated shows on TV. Like, you get some swearing, some more
yeah, absolutely,
violence. But for the Flashpoint Paradox DC movie, there's been the rumors that
Jeffrey Dean Morgan will play the Thomas Wayne character again, where he's the Batman of the Flashpoint.
Yeah.
So that could be pulled off pretty good. I think he'd be a pretty solid.
I like him as an actor. I've seen him in a number of different things. He doesn't always play the same character. He does have like that gravelly look to him, that rugged look that you could see where the Thomas Wayne character of Flashpoint would have gone that way. You know what I mean? He wouldn't have been exactly enjoying the luxuries that Bruce Wayne enjoys. He really is just more of a sequestered hermit that goes out and kicks some ass every night.
Yeah.
So I think he'd do a really, really good job doing that.
Yeah. And then you get some fan casting for, what do they say, Reverse Flash there, where they're saying it. A lot of people are kind of rooting for Matthew McConaughey.
Really?
It's like at first I was kind of like thought it was kind of funny, and
I'm
then
not saying it's impossible. I don't know. I mean, I don't know who I would put in the role. So Matthew McConaughey is good as anybody else at this point in time. To me,
he played a good villain in the Dark Tower there.
I haven't had the heart to watch the Dark Tower. It's just I read all the books and my heart would be broken if I watched the Dark Tower. As much as I like the lead actors, including McConaughey, I can't bring myself to do it.
Yeah, the lead actors did a stellar job for what they had to work with.
It was Idris Elba, wasn't it?
Yeah,
played Roland.
Yeah. And actually, like all of his lines and the movie was awesome. And then Matthew McConaughey's character was awesome, but then just the movie itself was not.
Yeah, unless you're gonna if you're gonna do the Dark Tower, you're kind of obligated to do all 8 books. I think it was all 8 books. You can't really compress all of that story. I mean, even the initial Dark Tower's book, The Gunslinger, that's an arc that carries forward. Like, it doesn't end. It just keeps going and going and going. It's a huge arc that you can't cover in one movie.
Yeah, bringing it all the way back to our DC series. We went way off the rails there. But, so I have a few that I really enjoyed. I especially like when you can get them in graphic novel format, so that you don't have to
the trade paperbacks there.
Yeah.
That's I kind of in my old age and fatherhood, I kind of rely on the trade paperbacks to keep myself moving forward, because with the exception of the DC Doomsday story arc, the Watchmen story arc that they have going on right now. Mm-hmm. That's the only comics I've bought in I don't know how many years, just to keep following that story, and that's only because I love the Watchmen and I happen to love DC.
Yeah, I just find that I can go through a standard comic book way too fast.
Oh yeah, no, I had to buy the first 3 issues all at once, and that took me a day to go through. So it is torture waiting.
Yeah.
On releases for a story arc.
So I'll kick it off with my first story arc that I enjoyed. It was Blackest Night.
Good story.
Yeah, the Green Lantern story arc there. It's 2009-2010, written by Jeff Johns and penciled by Ivan Reis. It was a really awesome story arc.
I like the idea of how they played off about all of the characters getting dragged up out of the ground because they had all died at some point in time or another.
Yeah.
So they're all susceptible to the powers of the Black Ring.
Mm-hmm.
That had me hooked from the idea in the get-go when it was announced. When it was announced that they were doing that huge arc, and it was an excellent read.
Yeah. And it was 2009, 2010 was kind of right at the beginning of the big the zombie craze there, where you got like the Walking Dead series coming out, and everything was zombies. So the fact that DC was able to tastefully kind of bring in kind of a fresh, almost zombie element to their universe was
that, and the whole idea that they were for the longest part unstoppable.
Yeah,
like they were, and I'll talk about this in one of my picks. They were almost like the OMAC virus. Like, it just kept going and going and going. There was no stopping it.
No, yeah, it was this unrelenting wave, and it was like really a cross-universe event for DC, and had the Green Lantern Corps right at the middle of it. So it also introduced the emotional spectrum to the Green Lantern's kind of story.
I liked because of that story was when I first was introduced to the Red Lanterns. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge fan of the Red Lanterns. You know, they had their own series with the New 52 pop up, like really, really deep into that.
Yeah.
And I liked how they really built on that and expanded that there's not just green and yellow. There's so much more, and how they're all interconnected, and how they can all either work together or not work together. It's really, really, really good job.
And you saw the Star Sapphires earlier on in Green Lantern storylines, but this is when they kind of really pulled them into the emotional spectrum that they are a kind of an offshoot of a Lantern.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was, even though in the comic book world, nobody ever truly stays dead.
No.
They still had some really impactful deaths in that series. I found, like, some of the main characters that died, even though you know that they're probably going to come back when they reboot or something's going to happen, when they died, it like really hit you in the feels. Like, there was some pretty good emotional writing in there.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Focused on some of the darkest corners of the DC universe. Like, you got some of the flashbacks of when the Black Lanterns were kind of pulling on the pain of the characters. So they'd be pulling on, like, Barry Allen's tragedies, Hal Jordan's tragedies, their, like, lost loved ones. And then they're coming face to face with their lost loved ones reanimated as Black Lantern.
Yeah.
So it was really tackling some really dark stuff. And then, although DC ultimately rebooted again, at the time the stakes felt real, and it did kind of bring in some stuff into like the new DC that's out now. Like, as you said, the Red Lanterns are now a big part of that. They have their own stuff going on.
Well, the Blackest Night. Oh, I'm gonna say it's one of the crises of the end of the old guard. Right, it was right before New 52 started up, and Blackest Night played a huge role in that. One of my picks, Infinite Crisis and Final Crisis. They were the penultimate end to it. But you're right. It is one of those stories that, because of how big it is and because of how important it is, it ushered in that new wave.
Yeah.
And let's face it, DC's not going out of business tomorrow.
No.
I'm going to be long gone off this earth by the time they finally fold, if they ever do.
Yeah.
So I think every Marvel and DC or every now and then you do have to do that hard reboot. And it's not always easy to do a hard reboot. You can't just turn around, look at everybody and say, okay, new beginning, we're starting up again.
Yeah.
What you need to do is figure out a way to not only appease everybody that's along for the ride right now that's not ready for it to end.
Yeah.
Give them a reason to keep going, and also give other people a reason to start from a new beginning.
Exactly.
So that they don't feel like they're missing out on anything else. And then older, fine-looking gentlemen like ourselves get to grab the trade paperbacks and catch up on everything that we missed.
Yeah, and then Blackest Night, when it eventually ended, spectacularly as it did, and I felt was pretty well wrapped up. It led into the Brightest Day story arc after that. It wasn't as big into the Brightest Day story arc. It was
a good... I say good in the fact that it was like a nice ending to a dark story. It's the sun coming up at the end of the horror movie.
Yeah.
You've spent all night fighting the forces of evil. You've made it, and now the sun's coming up. That's what it felt like to me.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. It wasn't horrible. But during Blackest Night was where you felt it all, where you saw it all happening. Brightest Day, there was more than enough going on. But if I was to gauge my emotional connection to the story, Blackest Night had me right in there. Brightest Day was just here's a nice after dinner drink to calm your nerves and relax and chill out a little bit.
Yeah. So that's my first pick.
All right, good first pick.
Yeah, came out strong.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, way to come out swinging. Suddenly, nothing I have to say matters anymore.
Don't worry, my next ones are pretty soft. They're probably people could argue against them, but I like them.
I'll start out with mine. One of my favorite series. And I have most of the trade paperbacks upstairs. So I'm going to start out with Batman. Not that I'm biased, but Batman. The No Man's Land series.
Okay.
So No Man's Land, if you've never read it before, basically a huge earthquake hits Gotham, sends it into turmoil. The government can't do anything about it. They say, listen, we're going to get everybody out of here. If you want to stay, you can stay. Think of the hurricane is coming to the coastal line. The government's pulling everybody out, and then you just have these fools that just want to stick around and watch the show, or maybe they want to stay and protect their belongings, whatever.
Yeah.
So the government says, we have this amount of time, we're going to get everybody out. And then after that, you're no longer part of America. And Gotham is pretty much written off. There's a lot of nods to this story in The Dark Knight Rises. Rises? That's the one with Bane, yeah?
Yeah, Dark Knight Rises.
So during The Dark Knight Rises, all the bridges get shut down. No one goes in. Nobody goes out. Mm-hmm. It's that story where Gotham is left to fend for itself. Of course, the exact people that you would think would step up to start claiming their own little power positions start doing it. It really covers... You pretty much do the whole run of Batman's rogue gallery. Batman, of course, he's just got to go in there. He's got to help save the people that either couldn't get out in time or have chosen to stay for some god-awful reason. It's not as an emotional ride as, let's say, Blackest Night. It's not even as much of an emotional ride as the death of Superman, actually. At times, it can actually be a very, very slow plotting ride. However... through the chaos and just mania that goes on in there, it's actually a really, really gripping story. And you get to see a lot of really weird villains that haven't been around in ages upon ages. Yeah. The one that comes to my mind is the tax collector. Because we all know who the tax collector is. Just, right? Exactly. Just some random dude. And here's this villain that, up until I read that, and it was written out in 99. Yeah, there you go. By Greg Rucka, which is a boss name. Paul Dini and Bob Gale. And it goes on and on and on about trying to rebuild. And every time somebody tries to do some good, there's a huge force preventing anything from happening. It touches on the Joker has his thing with Harley Quinn going on. Yeah. Penguin's doing his thing, grabbing his power. In the end, as with all good Batman stories, as with all good superhero stories, Batman manages to get in. He gets to save the day. And inevitably, Gotham starts to rebuild itself from the smoldering rubble that it once was. You see a lot of different nods to No Man's Land in the Batman Arkham series. Yep. On the PlayStation, there's a part of Gotham that's still condemned and underwater from the earthquake. Okay. DC Online makes a lot of nods to it. Dark Knight Rises, like I said, a lot of scenes where you see people drawing bats on the wall. You know, that's their little code. They go through a lot of that in the story. Basically secret societies rising up to try to fight alongside Batman. People that have really nothing to lose, nothing to gain. Try to reclaim the city. Like I said, it's not a huge emotional ride for me, but it was a really solid ride for me nonetheless.
Yeah, well, that sounds pretty good. I personally haven't read that one, but I have heard of it, and I'd see how that could definitely be in the Dark Knight Rises there with some of the nods.
It's a pretty long arc. Like, it's 4 or 5 trade paperback volumes.
Jeez.
And then you have the road to No Man's Land and the rebuild of No Man's Land. Like, I think you can find the omnibus for like almost $200 at the bookstore, and I don't have the time in my life to even read all of that. But it is still, for $19.99, a really, really solid story.
Sounds very similar to the Marvel arc of Old Man Logan, where the villains have kind of rose to power, and they're now the governors of different sections of the US and stuff. So.
It's funny because when you read it, you realize that Metropolis... the Jewel Cities, they're still fine. They're still just plodding along like everything's normal. And, you know, you see Superman stick his head in and get promptly told to leave. Superheroes offer their help to Batman, and he just promptly says, no, thank you.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's always interesting to see when you got stuff happening in the DC universe and, like, say, like TV shows like Arrow or Flash, and they're struggling with something, and you're like, man, just make a phone call to Superman, he'll fix it.
Well, exactly. And then that's the funny thing is that I've read certain issues where, like, the Joker makes his way to Metropolis to just cause some shit with Superman. And he's promptly smacked around and sent back home in a quick, rather nasty manner. Mm-hmm. So, you know, there are just some... it's a good highlight that not all characters can really intermingle like that. Sometimes they gotta, you know, stick to your own chunk of the dirt.
So my second choice for a series I enjoy by DC is the Earth 1 series.
Oh, Earth 1 is good.
Yeah.
Earth 1 is a good series.
I enjoy it quite a bit. They started out with the Superman Earth 1, and then had Batman, Wonder Woman, Teen Titans.
The Green Lantern's coming out this year?
This month, I believe.
It is this month, eh? Okay.
Yeah, it's the end of the month. It occurs in a new continuity that's separate and unaffected by the regular DC universe. So, usually in the DC universe, like, sometimes you have, like, the parallel Earths kind of
the multiverse.
The multiverse, yeah. Kind of intermingling a little bit, or something will happen in one and it will impact another one.
Mm-hmm.
The Earth 1 series is completely separate.
Okay.
As far as I've seen so far.
Well, I think that's the general idea.
Yeah.
You know, I think like Earth Prime is where the main continuity goes.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Earth 1 was written and styled in a way so that they, whenever DC wants to do their own thing,
yeah,
it's on another Earth.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. I can kind of appreciate it. Yeah. I do like it when the Earths start to smash together.
Yeah.
You know, I do enjoy that.
Yeah.
But the Earth 1 series, I know the Earth 1 Batman, Alfred, is a lot more rugged, tough, shy of putting on a pith helmet and walking through the jungle trying to hunt lion for, you know, just something to do.
He's, it's almost like they kind of pull from some sort of, or some of the personality traits that you had with the Michael Caine Alfred, where he has the military past. And also the Jeremy Irons Alfred that's in Justice League and Batman vs Superman.
Even the Gotham Alfred is actually a pretty tough dude to deal with.
And that's an Alfred that I actually enjoy. Like,
mm-hmm, yeah, oh yeah, me too.
Makes a little bit more sense than kind of the hoity-toity English butler.
Well, when they do the hoity-toity English butler thing, they usually rely on him as like an actor that could, you know, throw on face makeup and go do something for Batman on the side.
Yeah.
Periodically pilot the Batwing or do whatever. You know, I've seen him put on the bat suit and run around like Batman to distract the fire. Because, you know, dedication to your job and such. But I always like the rougher, tougher Alfreds.
Yeah, and it kind of explains Bruce Wayne's kind of life path to eventually led where he was. But no, I agree that Alfred's pretty well done, and it's the Earth 1 series. They're more like a modernized look at the characters that kind of give them more of a 21st century kind of origin.
Yep.
We all get tired of the same retelling of the tired origin stories, but they do a really good job at telling it in a new, fresh way that hasn't quite been done before. Well,
the way the visuals typically work in Earth 1 is that you get that more calloused approach to the superheroes.
Yeah.
And that, I know that's why I like the Earth 1 series. I haven't read them all, but I really, really want to see the Green Lantern when it finally hits.
I do too.
That's one that I'm really looking forward to.
Yep.
But no, that's good.
Yeah, like the Superman ones I enjoy. It's kind of a different look on Superman where he's not the perfect superhero.
Yeah.
He's still learning. He's got issues.
Is it the Earth one? There was a series of Superman Batman. I have it upstairs. It's almost like the artwork is more watercolor. I think they're from Earth 1. And he's both Batman and Superman are the Earth 1 Batman and Superman. And they both got their faults. They're both relatively new to the job. They're not quite getting along together. At a certain point in time, they meet the Earth Prime, New 52, Batman, Superman, and they get to talking amongst each other about this is how we do things over here, and we're pretty good buddies, and you two need to get your shit together, smarten up.
Is it Earth 1?
I was pretty sure it was Earth 1. I got to double check because now it's going to just nag at me. But I think the Batman Superman trade paperbacks that I have upstairs are Earth 1 because they were released after the Batman and Superman Earth 1 series were released.
Okay, that's possible.
I could be completely wrong and talking out of my ass simultaneously too. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, but I haven't read the Teen Titan one. Superman ones I have, Batman ones, the Wonder Woman ones. But yeah, definitely looking forward to Green Lantern. I saw a few of the kind of the cover art for it. Mm-hmm. It kind of looks like he's got like almost like an astronaut suit on. So
cool.
Yeah. So that's my second choice there.
So my second choice, if you're a Batman fan, it's mandatory reading on top of things like The Dark Knight Returns, or really anything that I say about Batman, and that's The Long Halloween.
Okay, yeah.
And The Long Halloween, as I check my notes, were issued between 96 and 97, and it was a really, really dark and gritty version, and it kind of follows the Earth 1 style. Okay, it was kind of a lead up to that. So you have a Batman that's not experienced. He's still going along. And this is kind of when they brought Calendar Man back.
Okay.
So way back in the golden era of DC, where Calendar Man was one of those villains like Eraserhead and a countless slew of nonsensical characters. Like Kite Man, if you read the new Batman, the Rebirth series now, Kite Man's all over the fucking place. And it's great and they have fun with it. Kite Man was another one of those ridiculous super villains that nobody gave a rat's ass. It was something for Batman to beat on.
Yeah. I kind of almost wondered if the writers are just looking around the office being like, oh, calendar.
Right. I'm going to take this golf ball and I'm just going to throw it down the hall. Whatever it hits, I'm just going to throw man at the end of it.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of when I was a kid watching WWF Superstar Wrestling, where Hulk Hogan would face off against John Smith. And you're like, okay, well, I'm pretty sure I got my money on the Hulkster here. You know, it was kind of like, it was those superheroes. So when they reissued Calendar Man, he was darker, he was grittier, he was a lot less pleasant. He was clearly a homicidal maniac. And while Calendar Man is in Arkham, all kinds of fun little murders start popping up on all the calendar days that you would associate. St. Patrick's Day, Halloween, Christmas, you name it. You know, if there's a special mark on your calendar, somebody's dying. And while Calendar Man's locked up in Arkham, they start calling him the Holiday Killer. And the way the killer is kind of going about it, think kind of like a Silence of the Lambs-esque sort of really weird way of killing people. Like I said, it's a really dark, unpleasant story. Kind of folds in between the Falcone and Maroni wars.
Okay.
When they're at each other's throats. This is where they decide to bring up Two-Face kind of up into the forefront. He was kind of a villain that up until that point in time, kind of showed up, but really wasn't nurtured the way that, let's say, the Penguin or the Joker or the Riddler were nurtured.
Okay.
You know, so they kind of brought him back up to the forefront because inevitably with the Falcone-Maroni wars, somebody's getting out. Yeah. So they're going to need another gang head to get in there. So in the end, the Holiday Killer actually ends up to be, spoiler alert, in case you're interested, is Harvey Dent's ex-wife. So after Harvey went bananas, unfortunately, so did his wife. With the sudden quote-unquote loss of Harvey Dent and the birth of Two-Face, she didn't exactly handle it very well. And then she went out and started doing some pretty gnarly stuff. And that's really where it ends. There's really no good ending to that story. She walks away. She doesn't get taken down by the Batman. It's never ever figured out until the last minute. And I think it's Gilda Dent is her name. And she just kind of burns all the Holiday Killer stuff in a furnace and walks away into the sunset. Huh. It's really not a pleasant ending.
Yeah.
Nobody gets what's coming to them. Batman is still left furious, not knowing who did this. The only good thing for Batman is that the murder stopped. And that is it. It's a really crazy ride, really weird ride. The take on the Joker is, the imagery of the Joker is weird.
Okay.
If you've played the Arkham series, there is a skin for Catwoman. That is the Long Halloween skin. There's a Long Halloween skin for Batman.
Yeah.
Should you have that series referenced in the back of your mind? Really solid writing. Really was kind of my first foray into the dark, because there was a period from when I was a little kid to the time I was a teenager where I didn't really read any Batman comics. I'd actually spent a lot of time with Marvel, actually. Mm-hmm. When I got back into Batman comics, it was the Long Halloween that I picked up in. And I got the trade paperback upstairs because I never saw how it began. And that was my first real dark and gritty, not nice comic book story. It took the comic book code and threw it completely out the window.
Okay.
So, by all means, if you ever have the opportunity, get your face in that.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. I've heard a lot about it, so.
It is, like I said, when you talk about mandatory reading for DC, the Long Halloween is one of the mandatory reads.
So my next one's kind of a shorter one because it's not really much of a story arc. It's kind of a one-off, kind of self-contained graphic novel, and it's the Superman Godfall story.
Oh.
Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't. I've heard about it, but I've never actually spent a lot of time with it.
It's pretty interesting. I can loan it to you sometime. I have.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm the big Superman fan. So as most years are drawing from Batman, I do have a couple that draw from the Superman. Sometimes, even though I'm a huge Superman fan, I agree that sometimes you can only read or see Superman punch somebody into the atmosphere so many times. Mm-hmm. Like, he's ridiculously overpowered a lot of the times, and they have to find just as ridiculous reasons to
give him a challenge.
Yeah, give him a challenge. So this one did a good job where it took us to like a new version of Kandor.
Okay.
Where he's in the bottled city, not like the real like Kandor. It's like the post.
The post Brainiac Kandor.
Yeah,
okay.
Post Brainiac Kandor. So it's like the Kandor that he has in the little bottle in his Fortress of Solitude there.
Yep.
He's kind of got amnesia. He doesn't remember his time on Earth at all. He wakes up and he's got a life in Kandor. Kandor's got a red sun emitter that keeps all the Kryptonians inside depowered. And yeah, so he's leading this mediocre life in the Bottle City Kandor. He's got a girlfriend or wife that's not Lois Lane, and he's living alongside of all these different aliens. He's got a menial job that he's not happy with. He's always dreaming of getting into this other job. He has no powers, but then stuff starts happening. He starts remembering things. He starts having some of his abilities come back to him.
Okay.
Then you find out that the person that's playing his wife or girlfriend is the reason why he can't remember, and she's kind of siphoning off some of his power. It introduces a really new, cool variation to the Superman costume that's unseen before. It doesn't have the typical red and blues. It's primarily a black costume with a smaller Superman crest, red, and then kind of a silver kind of detail to it. So it's actually pretty cool.
Okay, it almost sounds like the return of Superman there after the death of Superman. He came back with the all black jumpsuit with the...
Yeah, I guess you could kind of say it's like that. It's kind of, but it's not exactly, because he still has a cape though.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
A red cape. There's actually a skin of it in Justice too.
Okay.
It's one of the variations that you can use for the Superman costume. And then it introduces a new character a new villain that's actually pretty interesting. He is captain of the Kandorian kind of like police.
Okay.
That's what Superman wants to be. Is like he's aspiring to one day become a kind of a Kandor cop.
Okay.
Because he sees the Kandor cops, they all have like these suits that give them the ability to fly and.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it introduces this new villain that's the captain of the police there. His name's not that cool. His name's Prius.
Oh, okay. Well,
like the masculine Toyota that,
like the boss car that I see driving around.
Yeah, he's almost like a General Zod, where he's driven by duty and
duty above all, and
yeah, to the point where he's gonna kill or do whatever he has to do his job, and it's all about duty. Even though I believe they say he is Kryptonian, he has some weird powers for Kryptonian.
Okay.
He has like a kind of a black heat vision.
Oh.
So at one point when they're out of the Bottle City Kandor and they're in Metropolis, he lets one rip at Superman. It comes out black. And you're like, well, that's kind of different and neat.
Yeah.
So.
How not Kryptonian of him.
Yeah. But I guess being in the Bottle City of Kandor kind of altered them a little bit, so.
I guess so. With it not being the natural son of Krypton, it could maybe alter their DNA. Sure. Yeah. I'll play along with that.
But it's not a very long book, and it's, like I said, it's a self-contained story. It's not a long story arc, but it's pretty well written. It's very different. It's not something you've kind of seen with Superman before, and it challenges him in a different way that you wouldn't kind of expect.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. I dig that. So, my next one, before I give you my last one, is one I just read.
Okay.
And it's The War of Jokes and Riddles. Relatively brand new. The trade paperback's out, which is the only reason I've managed to read it. And it has to deal with Batman roughly when he's getting going. It's not Earth 1. It's the present prime storyline, so that the Rebirth series. After he's proposed to Catwoman, they spend the night together. And he's having a really hard time, and he says, listen, before we go any further, I need to tell you a story. And The War of the Jokes and Riddles is him recounting to Catwoman this story. And he's been doing his Batman thing for a little while. The Joker's not laughing. And the Riddler, for some reason, he's just not challenged. Can't think of any good riddles. And, of course, as all things in Gotham, it's Batman's fault. And the whole story arc is between these two. Killing the innocent, getting Batman's attention, just trying to do anything in their power to get Batman over the edge, because they just feel if they get Batman over the edge, if they get Batman in a position where they can end Batman, they'll feel better. The Joker will laugh. The Riddler will be fine. The problem is either or doesn't want the other to win.
Okay.
The Joker is dependent on getting Batman, so he can't let the Riddler have him. The Riddler is dependent on getting Batman, so he can't let the Joker have it. So this war is raging between the two of them.
Okay.
Really, really well written. There's some really unpleasant, not images, but you know what's going on. The Joker, no, it's the Riddler, just pulls up into a house, kills the family. That's it. That is it. He just kills the family. There's quite a few kids killed in this story, as a matter of fact, now that I think about it. A bunch of bad guys killed too. There's no shortage of death. Not really blood and gore. So it's really kind of done with panels of a house with gunshots ringing. Okay. Or it's kind of told through exposition.
Okay.
You know, Kite Man seems to be this recurring character in the Rebirth series, if only for comedy relief. He actually plays pretty prominent in this one, and you find out that it was through this war that his son got knocked off by one of the warring sides.
Okay.
It's not the best series I've read. Tom King has written significantly better versions for the Rebirth. It all kind of coalesces in the final showdown. And this includes Bruce Wayne inviting the two of them to the manor to have a 9-course meal to talk it out and stop trying to burn Gotham to the ground. In the end, of course, there's the final showdown. And everybody has a side. Every supervillain has taken a side. You see Deathstroke and Deadshot just beat the shit out of each other all through Gotham. People dying left, right, and center. Like two completely evenly matched foes. And then Batman's got to get in between them. Everybody who is anybody, supervillain-wise, has a side on this. In the end, the final showdown basically ends where Batman has come to realize that somebody's got to die. That's just it. Somebody has got to die. And the final done, and this is the problem that Bruce Wayne faces, or Batman faces with Catwoman, is that when all the smoke is settled and it's just the three of them in a room, Batman, the Joker, and the Riddler, Batman grabs a knife and just goes for the Riddler. Just goes for it. All of his force, all at once. The only thing that stopped the knife was that the Joker put his hand up. And then the knife went right through his hand. And that was the end of it. It was a victory for Joker because he saw Batman was willing to kill. He had finally broken the Batman.
Yeah.
The Riddler won because he had known that he had finally brought Batman down to his finest, the lowest common denominator. He is willing to kill. This is, of course, after he confesses to killing countless children. So I really don't hold it against Batman that he was willing to wipe out the Riddler.
Yeah.
However, that was it. That is the big reveal. This is why he's got to tell Catwoman. Like I said, it's not the best Batman story I've ever read.
Yeah.
The final 3 pages was actually made the whole entire story for me. It's just that final thing where Batman is now willing to kill. In The Dark Knight Returns, he finishes off the Joker, breaks his neck. He snaps his neck. The Joker finishes the Joker. But he's willing to go that far. You've seen it once or twice in Batman stories where he's willing to take that life. Even in the beginning, in the 1940s, Batman swung around with guns on his hip. He used to shoot guns all the time.
Yeah.
Through retcons and whatnot, of course, he doesn't. But this is one where they actually touch on the fact that he is indeed willing to just start slaying people. Yeah,
it's kind of like the new DC movie Batman, the Batfleck there. like you can't tell me he hasn't killed people. Like in the Batman versus Superman there.
There are quite a few YouTube movies, YouTube videos where they do a kill count
Yeah.
For the Batman, I'm not giving too much of a shit look to it. It's amazing. It's just I'm not sure how you could do that without not to, even 1989's Batman, the Tim Burton Batman.
Yeah.
As he's swooping down on the Batwing, he's got the Joker in his sights, and he just unloads everything at the Joker, and the Joker just stands there calling him on. It's one of my favorite scenes of that movie. It's another instance where Batman's just willing to do it. It always seems to revolve around the Joker, but in this case, he's actually not trying to kill the Joker. He's trying to kill the Riddler.
Have you seen the College Humor Batman short where
Batman? Yeah,
where he learns about death.
Oh, I've seen it. I only ever saw it once. The one I always rewatch is when he's tormenting Bane.
That's a good one, yeah. But I think it's with Patton Oswalt there, where he plays the Penguin.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Batman keeps saying that they're sleeping.
Yeah, no, I remember. I haven't seen that one. We were actually talking about that. Me and a couple of guys at work the other day were talking about the College Humor Batman. If anybody has never seen that one, it is another mandatory watching. If only just because it's funny as all hell.
Yeah, there's like almost 10 of them, I think.
There's quite you can find a few where they've actually just kind of threaded them all together.
Yeah.
So that they all just kind of blend.
Yeah.
But no, that is awesome. As much of a rabid Batman fan as I am, I love the College Humor Batman series.
So my final choice is shockingly a Superman's story arc.
I never would have guessed that.
I know, eh? So this one is the Hell on Earth story arc.
Okay.
It takes place in the New 52 Continuum. Hell, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's H''EL. He's another survivor of Krypton that shows up on Earth. He was a student of Jor-El before the planet blew up, and Jor-El practically treated him as a son.
Okay.
At the beginning of the story, he kind of has a mysterious kind of origin to him. Mm-hmm. It's not quite explained where he comes from, other than the fact that him and Jor-El are best buds, and they share a lot of the same kind of opinions. But eventually, it gets revealed that he's actually a clone of countless Kryptonians in one form.
Okay.
And it kind of makes him a little weird.
Go figure.
Yeah.
Clones of clones of clones.
The way he looks, he's got long hair. His eyes are kind of black.
Okay.
Instead of the white eyeball, it's all black.
Mm-hmm.
He ends up having like a carved Superman symbol on his chest. He was originally planned on being the New 52 Bizarro.
Okay.
Kind of the new take on that, but then they changed it so that he became his own character. Because he was so compelling. Like, his story was kind of interesting, and he wasn't the kind of mindless Frankenstein kind of character that Bizarro is.
Bizarro is good for fun, but I don't know. I've never ever seen him as like a solid supervillain for Superman.
And when they keep telling, like, every time you hear a rumor that he's going to be in a Superman movie and he's going to be the main villain, he's really hard to pull off because he's not that compelling of a villain. Actually, that being said, Smallville TV series did a really good job at having a Bizarro there.
Okay. I tried to get into Smallville. I could never get into Smallville. Not because I'm not as big a Superman fan. I just struggled with getting into it. That's all.
I have all of it on DVD if you want to.
I bet you do. I will manage my life without it. Thank you.
I'll lend you my Tom Welling poster. Anyways, yeah. Well, Smallville, they did a different kind of take on it, where he wasn't just a straight up clone of Superman. He was kind of a copy, but he was, if I remember correctly, there was a Phantom Zone Phantom that had escaped that could take the form of somebody. He took the form of a Superman. So yeah, it was pretty cool. Since he was the clone of countless Kryptonians, naturally he was stronger than Superman. Had all kinds of different new powers. Some of them were similar to Superboy's powers, where he had the telekinesis and stuff like that. He had really weird powers that eventually got added. Like, he was able to teleport, not just move quick, but just teleport to different spots. So in a fight, it was kind of cool to watch. Like, he was able to move around the battlefield really quick. And
almost sounds like during the golden age of Superman, he had a litany of weird powers that he does not have anymore, that have all been but forgotten. Telekinesis was one of them.
Yeah.
Telepathy was another. I think teleportation was up there. It was a really, really weird time in Superman's history.
Yeah. Well, they do a good job at introducing these powers, and they don't overuse it, and they don't make it too goofy.
Okay.
At one point, they reveal that he has this one ability called chronokinesis, where he's able to control time. And you're kind of wondering, that's like, you're starting to become pretty all-powerful with that.
You're starting to reach now.
Yeah. So what he kind of ends up doing is he doesn't make any real big changes at the beginning, because it doesn't seem like he knows what he's, like, necessarily the full reach of the power yet. But ultimately, in this story arc, he doesn't get killed, but he gets beaten, and he takes off, and his goal is to recreate Krypton.
Oh, like you do.
Yeah, so if that's going back in time and trying to save Krypton, then that's what he's going to do. But he's also very similar to a General Zod character, where he's trying... His goal is to save Krypton, even though it's already lost. And he's willing to do anything to try and bring it back.
Gotcha.
So, it's well done. It's he's kind of a cool looking character, some cool abilities. He goes toe to toe with Superman, Supergirl, and Superboy all at once, and comes out on top. So,
Shit.
Yeah, he's able to do pretty well. It's not like it's almost like a Dragon Ball Z fight almost, except it doesn't take 4 episodes for the first punch to be thrown. You got this guy that's super powered, and you got the other guys kind of like staring at him wide-eyed, and then they all tackle him, and then all get thrown down and sort of thing. So
cool.
It's pretty cool, and it's enjoyable.
Right on.
And it's one of my kind of story arcs that kind of really kind of jumped out at me from the New 52. There's been some good ones in the New 52. That's one of my favorite ones so far.
So I'll tie into that, and this is my last pick in really no particular order. But it actually ties into your character, oddly enough. And that is Infinite Crisis.
Okay.
Now, I love all the Crisis series. It was... I remember reading Origin Crisis when I was really, really young and not understanding what the hell was going on. But I love the Crisis series. I love how, when it comes to the Crisis, everybody and his brother is involved.
Yeah.
Superheroes, supervillains. The weirdest superheroes for Infinite Crisis get drudged up from like the depths of the DC universe. It's insane, some of the characters they bring up. And Infinite Crisis kind of straddles the lines of... It's weird how they do it with like the Golden Age Superman, the Golden Age Wonder Woman, the present age Superman, the present age Wonder Woman. They're all coming together to fight the shit.
Yeah.
And in this case, the shit is the OMAC virus, which has slowly been taking over everybody and his brother. Mm-hmm. And it kind of coalesces with worlds just smashing together. I mean, it's a long drawn out. I'm kind of giving you the skip through notes of it all.
Yeah.
One of the things that stands out, especially with what you just brought up, is the Superboy from, it's not Earth 3, maybe Earth 2. I think it's the Golden Age Earth. Anyway, he ends up locked up in a red sun cage, carving a S into his chest.
Yep.
And when you said that, it just jumped out to me, and he had started to develop those weird powers. Now it's completely not Hal, if that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
It is really just Superboy, and this is where DC for a while had the evil Superboy that oddly enough was a clone. I think from the sounds of it, sounds like they scrapped that to bring in Hal.
Okay.
But he was a clone. He realized he was a clone. New 52 touches on it with... I have it upstairs.
Superboy has always been a clone.
Yeah.
But they have the one character, or the one version of common versions of Superboy where he's a clone of Superman and Lex Luthor.
Yeah. Well, I don't think he's that clone. It's been a long while since I read it.
Okay.
The reason that particular story appealed to me is that it led into Final Crisis, which dealt a lot with Darkseid, and I've always been a big fan. New 52 had the Darkseid War, but Infinite War was where it all kind of started. It started off with Wonder Woman breaking Maxwell Lord's neck
Yeah.
And triggering the OMAC virus to be released. It was really, really in-depth. I got the trade paperback many, many years ago. Mm-hmm. You can go out now and buy the omnibus, which is every story in DC that ties into this damn thing. It is monstrous. If I dropped it on my son, it would crush him. But it's just really, really involved. It's not as emotionally moving as, let's say, The Death of Superman. Mm-hmm. It's not emotionally moving as Tom King's writing, or even the near the end of New 52 with certain deaths that I'm not going to get into for expediting purposes of this episode. But it's just really, really good. A lot of nods to Golden Age characters. Mm-hmm. A lot of nods to the idea of the multiverse and how many Earths are there. You know, all the different, multiple variations on superheroes. This is before 52 kind of brought in a bunch of brand new Earth Green Lanterns and the Earth 3 Power Ring.
Yeah.
It was really, really well written. Really colorful for a dark story. The inking is actually very, very bright for what it is. But it's a lot of characters get just killed off. It's funny how they do it because they bring back Uncle Sam and the Metal Men and all kinds of stuff that you just haven't seen in ages. I mean, they're a little bit more prevalent now, oddly enough.
Yeah. But
leading up to it, you very rarely ever, I never saw them that much. They brought them up pretty much just to kill them off. It was just something to get shot. And really, really good story. Kind of tied into that, for all I know, that could be the case. Maybe it was the Earth 3. I'd have to start poking around to see if that was the actual tie-in. But no, really, really good story. And like I said, it's not my favorite series ever. Mm-hmm. Actually, my favorite series is a Marvel series, but it is one of my favorite DC series.
Yeah. You brought up the Dark Side War there. Have you read the Aftermath books for that?
I have not read the Aftermath books.
So after Darkseid dies, all of the Justice League get godlike powers.
No, I haven't read that one.
Some of the abilities that Darkseid had.
Ooh.
So it gets divided up, and I have that one also. I can lend it to you.
Is that the one where Batman gets the Mobius chair?
Yes.
Okay, I have read that one.
Okay.
Yes, I did read that. Yeah. Yes. That's where we get where he finds out who the Jokers are.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. There's tons of different story arcs from DC that are still good that we haven't touched on.
There's in some cases there's too many to count. Like, I mean, I know just in passing, the Death of Superman series was huge for me, as well as the Reign of Supermen when we had, was it 5?
Yeah.
5 Supermen going around. I mean, Hank Henshaw, still one of my favorite villains.
Yeah, he was good. I still have the front page newspaper article of the Death of Superman because literally on that day in the world, nothing else happened. So the biggest story of that day was the Death of Superman.
I remember I have it in a folder upstairs. I have the Toronto Sun newspaper for that day, and I have the article that was written leading up to the Death of Superman when they announced that they were going to be killing off Superman.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that half the world didn't burn down when they threatened that.
Yeah, that was the first big superhero death, I think.
It was one of the, to the best of my knowledge, because Batman got killed in Final Crisis. Well, he got sent back in time during Final Crisis.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman, she's been hacked and slashed a bunch of times. Hal Jordan.
Yeah, I think he's bit the dust.
He's bit the dust. He's been brought back. I know. Who am I missing? The Flash has died a couple of times.
Barry Allen.
Yep. And then, countless others. I mean, to be a superhero, you got to die. You're not a real superhero unless you've been killed and brought back at least once.
Yeah. At some point, we're gonna have to do our favorite Marvel story arcs. So
I think it would only be fair. I mean, we'll start with the best and then do the Marvel one, because they're like I said before, there was a point in time where all I read was Marvel.
Yeah.
And it was Marvel that first introduced me as a young kid to the idea of a huge story arc, because Origin Crisis was just a trade paperback when I read it.
Yeah, and it's pretty easy to even read Marvel right now because they have their Marvel Unlimited service.
Yep.
So it'd be really nice if DC got on the ball with that. And
it was. I remember I hadn't heard about Marvel Unlimited till you told me about it. I'm like, oh well, shit. Somebody's got to have DC Unlimited. I'll throw money at DC.
Yeah.
No, it's not there. It's
no. They keep teasing that they're gonna have one. It just hasn't happened yet.
I have no idea why. I mean, the market's there. It's the Netflix of comic books. Like, why deny yourself that revenue stream? Take my money.
Yeah.
I'll throw my money out the window right at you.
They're putting all their brain power into trying to make a
cohesive movie.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, so far, Anyways, so that's gonna do it for this episode. If you have any things you'd like us to talk about, or if you want to argue with one of us about anything that we said today.
Can't imagine why they'd argue with me. My stuff was mostly Batman, so you're the only one.
It was almost entirely Batman, yeah.
You derailed the show.
Yeah, so you tweet at us on Twitter, send us a message Facebook, Instagram, or if you feel like doing the old-fashioned way, sending us an email, you can do so at nerdiumpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, let us know if we missed one. Let us know what you like. And by all means, since we're going to be talking about Marvel at some time, throw a couple of Marvel ideas. We'll see if we agree with it or not.
Yeah. We can even maybe mention it in the episode.
Maybe if it's a good one. If not, then anybody mentions the Spider Clone series, they're just getting blocked on Twitter. That's the end of it for me. I can't have that nonsense.
All right. Well, until next time. See you guys.
Take care, guys.